Persona 5 Royal is a unique and undeniably exciting video game that has mind-blowing plot twists, epic battles, and of course, memorable cast of characters. And the last part is the most important. You see, there is a total number of 10 members of the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, yet only 4 can be released onto the battlefield. And in order to easily progress through the game, it is important to understand which characters are good for your team, and which are not. I've completed Persona 5 Royal myself, and after my walkthrough, I'm happy to share my experience with you by making a tier list of the Phantom Thieves. We'll be looking at how good in general is the character, what are their weak spots and strong parts, and we'll also discuss the best variations for those characters. So without further ado, let's not pluck out by its nuts and let's hop straight into the tier list. So, how does the tier list work? Tier list is essentially a chart that divides characters by tiers. We have X tier, which is the highest tier. Then we have S tier, A tier, B tier, and C tier. The lower the characters are placed, the worse. It doesn't necessarily mean that a C tier character is totally lame. They can be used, but it's highly recommended to use those members of the cast that are located higher in the tier list, specifically X and S tiers. We'll start talking about the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, beginning from their leader, followed by his teammates in the chronological order he meets them. Renamanya, aka Joker, the only character that must permanently stay in your squad. There's nothing much to be said about the leader of the Phantom Thieves of Hearts, from whose perspective you play throughout the whole game. Joker can take absolutely any role in your squad due to his ability to wield multiple personas at the same time. In my opinion, the wisest decision would be making him the core of your squad, due to the big amount of personas whose main objective is to deal as much damage as possible. So try building a team around him. Due to his flexibility, Joker has the biggest variety of skills available to player in whole Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. As such, it would be rational to put him into the X tier. Ryuji Sakamoto, aka Skull. Ryuji mainly focuses on dealing physical and electrical damage to opponents with a few support skills that can help your squad in the heat of the battle. For instance, increasement of attack. Ryuji is a sub-DPS character who certainly is strong throughout the most of the game. Yet the further you go into the story, the more difficult it will become to use him, since more and more opponents have resistance to physical damage, which is his main source of damage. Nevertheless, Ryuji proves himself to be really strong in the early and mid-game, so that's why I decided to put him into the A tier. Morgana, aka Mona. Since Mona is a healer, you can't really think of many ways of using him apart from as a healer in your squad. Yes, wind damage is there, yet the list of opponents in mid and end game who have wind weakness is quite empty. Even so, Morgana can easily be replaced with just one heal button on Joker's persona. For instance, Izanagi no Kami Pikoro has a heal button that restores full HP and removes all ailments to all allies, and that's why I can't think of any other place but C tier for Mona. On to Kamaki, aka Panther. While Ryuji's main purpose is to output physical and electrical damage, whereas Morgana focuses more on supporting his squad rather than dealing wind damage, you could say that On is something in between those two. Her fire skills can certainly be painful to your opponents, and her debuffs, which are aimed at decreasing the attack of your enemies or removing all of their buffs, may really come in handy. The only problem with Arm, which is incredibly annoying, is that his skills cost way too much. For example, severe fire damage to all opponents costs 54 SP. That's basically almost a quarter of the whole SP she has. That's why it's important to keep an eye on how much SP Anna has remaining. The other problem is that during some difficult fights with extra tough opponents, Anna's attack decrease debuff can be easily neglected due to the fact that the opponent still deals quite a lot of damage. The cost of your support abilities is quite big, whereas the profit from them is occasionally much smaller. In my opinion, Arn belongs to the category of those characters who are located in a solid B tier. Yusuke Kitagawa, aka Fox. Yusuke has pretty much identical gameplay style to Ryuji. They both deal more physical damage rather than the elemental damage they have. Yusuke has ice and Ryuji has lightning, and both of them have buffs for your team that can certainly find a good use. So that's why it's important to make sure that Fox is fulfilling the role of sub-DPS in your team during the combat by assisting Joker to output as much damage as possible. Just because Ryuji was placed into A tier, I believe that Yusuke also deserves a spot in it, since both of these characters' gameplay is almost identical and they share the same problems. Makoto Nijima, aka Queen. It is said by numerous players of Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal that Makoto is a character who is undoubtedly strong because of her big arsenal of skills. She can use support skills, spells, deal tons of nuke damage, and even heal your teammates. Queen is a character who can be used as a support and sub-DPS at the same time, with the amount of her SP certainly being plausible to fulfill that requirement. I recommend using Ring of Lust, which is available by getting all 3 will seeds from Kamoshida's palace. This ring allows you to heal your ally and gives them an increasement of attack bonus for 3 turns. And with that ring you can focus on having support skills and amplifications for nuke damage. For such a strong and useful character, I believe that there's no better spot than X tier. Futaba Sakura, aka Oracle, the only non-playable member of the Phantom Thieves of Hearts. She doesn't deal any damage, as her main objective is to buff and assist your squad as much as she can. It can be a position hack which allows you to down opponents immediately at the beginning of the fight, or numerous buffs for your teammates, such as attack, defense, agility increasement, or all the 3 buffs at the same time, SP or HP restoration. The only problem with Futaba is that you can't fully control when and what Oracle is going to give to your teammates. However, technically you can do that artificially. For example, when your allies are low on HP, there's an increased chance that Futaba may give HP restoration to your teammates. Or, for instance, when Joker's SP is low, Futaba can regenerate some of it for him. Despite this issue, Futaba can still be very useful in your team during the combat, which is why the S tier is the righteous spot for her. Haru Kumura, aka Noir. Noir probably disappointed me the most amongst all the Phantom Thieves of Heart. Her main objective is to deal psychokinetic damage, as well as inflict gun damage to all opponents. The issue is that the only palace where Haru can be really useful is Okumura's palace, since all the opponents there are weak to Psy attacks. Yet after completing CEO Okumura's palace, Haru isn't a good option to use, just because there are characters who can output more damage with much more ease than Noir. Furthermore, the closer you get to the end of the game, the more opponents there are who are in possession of gun damage repel and resistance to psychokinetic attacks. C tier is the only place I can think of Haru to be positioned in. Goro Akechi, aka Crow. Ace Detective is the only other character apart from Joker whose set of skills changes significantly throughout the whole game. In Sai's palace, Akechi focuses on dealing bless and curse damage, but in Maruki's palace he has a much stronger set of skills with Almighty, Physical, Gun, and Curse attack with support attack that increases enemies' attack, defense, and agility at the same time. Crow can certainly deal a lot of damage, but the only problem is that there are opponents in Maruki's palace who deal a lot of damage to him, and they have immunity or repel to some of his attacks. With that, I can certainly say that Akechi is surely one of those characters whom you may really want to be on your team. A solid S tier for me. Sumire Yoshizawa, aka Violet, personified royal exclusive character. In the meta, Sumire is the character that hasn't found that much love amongst the players. To start off, she's the member of the Phantom Thieves who spends the least amount of time with your team. One palace. Yes, that's right, one palace. And it belongs to Dr. Maruki. And another issue is that there are some opponents in the beginning of that palace who have both physical and blessed resistance, meaning that Sumire becomes almost useless during the battle. However, there are still a variety of opponents who do not have resistance to those types of damage, and there are certainly opponents who have weaknesses to those types of damage. If you're willing enough to make her one of the 4 members of the Phantom Thieves who will fight on the field, I suggest making her physical and blessed sub-DPS. To sum up, a small amount of playtime, plus tough opponents in the beginning of the palace that have resistance to both of the powers of Sumire form negative prejudice towards her. I believe the B tier would be alright for her. Alrighty ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we have reached the end of our video. Once again, I'm posting the full version of the tier list right here as an image so that you could see who is placed where. I would also like to use a moment to say thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel since it helps me out a lot and it makes my channel grow bigger. Thank you very much once again. Drax was in the studio. See you later.